Yeah, Promise Arizona held a vigil last night in anticipation of this announcement. And joining us this morning to talk more about some of the resistance to this decision coming out of the administration is Tony Navarrete. He is the Deputy Director for Promise Arizona and also a member of the state legislature representing District 30. It was anticipated that this would happen. There's a lot to digest moving forward of how this will be implemented, both logistically for those people who have their potential or facing potential deportation to countries that maybe they haven't spent any significant time living in.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're seeing here and witnessing is really the manufacturing of a crisis by this administration. And this crisis doesn't just affect, just adults. We're talking about young people who know no other country except the United States. And just like the American people who are resilient, these young American-raised students will be resilient and will overcome this challenge. But at the end of the day, what we're witnessing as well is a pattern of discrimination, a pattern of going after this country's most vulnerable. And there is a problem with this, and there is also a lack of leadership. And we saw here that, we had here the Homeland Secretary, Attorney General Jeff Sessions speaking on behalf of the president. Anything that has to do with the executive order, the president is right in the front of a camera. But I'm assuming he's probably not in front of a camera because he probably can't stick to his own talking points. So again, this is an issue that is really going to have an impact on about 800,000 individuals that are currently on the Deferred Action program.
I was reading that I think 72% of Republicans want Dreamers to stay here, to be able to stay here. Do you have any confidence that Congress will come up with a law that will help the Dreamers already here?
Yeah, well, I think right now is a turning point, I think, for our country, and I think it's an opportunity for Congress, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, to truly act to protect these young people who have no other home except the United States. It's important that we find a solution immediately. These are individuals that are currently working, they own homes, they have families here, mixed status families as well. It's important for Congress to act. We've been trying to fight at Promise Arizona for comprehensive immigration reform since 2010 when the organization was created. And we're going to continue to fight for legislation because until we have legislation, we're not going to see total protections for these young people and immigrants in general. And I know that the Attorney General was mentioning that, that they're trying to be responsible. Well, Congress and the president needs to be responsible with the fact that we have 11 million undocumented immigrants. And that doesn't mean that we have this huge amount of individuals that are coming into this country. We actually have a net zero folks that are coming into this country right now. There's not this huge influx. So I do believe that Congress has an opportunity. Right now there is so much tension, so much uncertainty in this country. And it is time for Congress to step up and show leadership that this administration has been lacking.
Last thing, those who support the president's agenda and want to see a real hard line on immigration, they point to the economic impact that these jobs will be turned over to United States citizens, and that will be helpful for the bottom line in terms of resources that the government is spending to support some of these DACA program enrollees. What do you say to that? Many say that the bottom line will be a great loss to the gross national product.
Correct, and that statement is false. It's simply false. There are a ton of reports led by Republicans, Democrats, bipartisan groups that state that immigrants actually create and sustain jobs. So they are creating more jobs than they are currently in roles of. So no, that statement is completely false. There are statements over and over and reports that reflect that same finding. So I believe that immigrants are extremely important. These young people who are working are extremely important. And we have to just find ways that we are coming up with these comprehensive solutions to this very critical issue. Again, these are people's lives that are at stake. Young people, people that you see in the grocery stores, that you see driving by, folks that are graduating high schools. Right now in Arizona, the majority of K through 12 students are Latinos. And I'm not saying immigrants are only from Latino countries, but a big portion of DACA students do come from Mexico. And in Arizona, I believe there's about 58,000 individuals that currently qualify for DACA, but currently about 28,000 actually have DACA. So again, this is an opportunity for leaders all across the country from both sides of the aisle. And a lot of them have spoken up already. This is, I would say, the majority of Americans do support keeping DACA in place. And it's just a small minority that the administration continues to feed this small base that he continuously depends on for encouragement, for support, and at the end of the day, the American people are losing, and so are our young people.
Well, Tony, thank you for your time and your input. We appreciate you coming by this morning.
No, thank you again for having me.
Arizona on the front lines of any immigration conversation, so I'm sure we'll be hearing more from Promise Arizona in the future. Thanks so much.